Ethan Walker was the kind of man people admired, though he rarely noticed. At 42, he carried the air of someone who had weathered storms and come out stronger, not just wealthier. His empire wasn't built on inheritance or luck but on 20 years of sweat and sleepless nights. From running deliveries in a beat-up pickup truck as a teenager to owning a logistics company valued at hundreds of millions, Ethan knew the cost of every dollar he spent. And yet, when it came to Vanessa, he never counted the cost. He met her at an art gallery in Soho. She was 29, radiant in a red silk dress, standing in front of a painting she admitted she didn't understand. Ethan, dressed in his understated gray suit, offered a quiet interpretation. She laughed, an effortless, melodic laugh that made him feel, for the first time in years, like he wasn't just a businessman but a man who could still surprise someone. Their courtship was fast, intoxicating. Dinners in candlelit restaurants, weekend trips to Napa, nights on his balcony overlooking Manhattan where she would trace patterns on his palm as though reading his future. She told him he made her feel safe. She told him she admired his discipline, his generosity, his heart. Ethan believed every word. When they married a year later in a lavish ceremony at the plaza, Ethan thought he had secured not just a wife, but a partner for life. He didn't care that his friends raised eyebrows at the age gap, or that whispers followed them. She's too glamorous for him. She's after the money. Ethan brushed it off. Cynics, he told himself, always see shadows even in the brightest light. For 5 years, he gave Vanessa everything she desired. A penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling views of the Hudson. A white Mercedes convertible. Vacations in Capri, St. Bart's, and Bali. When she wanted to redecorate their entire home twice in 3 years, Ethan simply smiled and wrote the checks. If she was happy, he was happy. But happiness, he would learn, can be an illusion purchased on credit, one that eventually comes due. The gala that changed everything. It was late spring, and the city pulsed with its usual electricity. That evening, Ethan and Vanessa attended a charity gala at the Plaza Hotel, an event crowded with New York's wealthiest. Ethan, ever reserved, was there to support a cause close to his heart, funding education for underprivileged children. Vanessa was there for the spectacle. She wore an emerald green gown that hugged her figure and turned heads the moment she entered the ballroom. "Smile more," she whispered to Ethan as photographers snapped their picture. "You look like you're attending a funeral." He chuckled softly, brushing it off. For her, appearances mattered. For him, substance did. Inside, chandeliers glittered above them, violins played, and waiters moved with trays of champagne. Ethan mingled with investors and philanthropists, though he always kept an eye on Vanessa. She thrived in these settings, gliding from group to group, her laughter like a lure that drew men into her orbit. Ethan told himself it was harmless. After all, she always came back to him at the end of the night. Or so he thought. Around 9, Ethan stepped away to take a business call. When he returned, he cut through the hallway near the powder room, the sound of women's voices carrying through the half-open door. He froze. Vanessa's voice was unmistakable, smooth, tinged with mockery. "I can dump him anytime," she was saying. "He's just a wallet I've not emptied yet. Once I get what I want, I'm gone." Her friends giggled, the clink of champagne glasses punctuating the cruelty. Ethan's chest tightened. For a moment, he wondered if he'd misheard. But her voice came again, sharper this time. "Honestly, he's sweet, but dull. No spark, no excitement. I'm already seeing someone who knows how to make me feel alive. Ethan, he's just paying the bills until I'm done." The world tilted. His ears rang. Every memory. Her kisses, her whispered, "I love you," her hand clutching his arm at dinners, collapsed under the weight of her words. He stood there, stone still, until the laughter faded. Then, quietly, he turned and walked out of the hotel into the cool night air. The long night. Back at the penthouse, Ethan sat alone by the wide glass windows, Manhattan's skyline stretching before him in a glitter of lights. He poured himself a glass of whiskey but barely touched it. The betrayal replayed in his mind like a broken record. Just a wallet I've not emptied yet. He thought of the nights he had worked until dawn to provide security, the vacations he planned to bring her joy, the way he had bent his life around her desires. All of it, reduced to a bank account. Anger rose in waves, but beneath it was something colder, clarity. Vanessa didn't love him. She never had. To her, he was a transaction, not a husband. Yet Ethan wasn't a man who acted rashly. His business instincts, honed over decades, told him one truth. Revenge was best served not with fire, but with precision. That night, while the city pulsed below him, Ethan began to plan. The decision. He pulled out a notebook, the same kind he used when building his company. He wrote 3 words at the top of a blank page. Truth, justice, freedom. Truth. He needed undeniable proof of her betrayal. Justice. He would make sure she never profited from his devotion. Freedom. He would reclaim his life from the illusion she had woven. For hours, Ethan outlined steps, contacts, resources. He knew lawyers, investigators, strategists. He knew how to construct airtight deals and tear down deceit. If Vanessa thought he was just a wallet, she was about to discover that behind the wallet was a mind sharper than she could ever imagine. As dawn broke over Manhattan, Ethan stood, straightened his jacket, and stared at his reflection in the glass. His eyes, once clouded with grief, were steady now. The game had changed, and Ethan Walker never lost a game. Ethan Walker had always believed that the best deals were made in silence, with patience and precision. That belief, the very thing that had built his empire, now fueled his path toward revenge. Vanessa had mocked him as just a wallet, but she had underestimated the man who controlled it. Step 1. The truth unveiled. The morning after the gala, Ethan made his first call, not to Vanessa, not to friends, but to a private investigator. Discretion was key. If he confronted her too early, she would cover her tracks. Within weeks, the investigator delivered a file so damning it chilled Ethan despite his preparation. Dozens of photos captured Vanessa with Marco, her so-called personal trainer. Intimate dinners, hotel rooms, weekend trips funded by Ethan's credit cards. Text messages sealed the case. Explicit confessions, plans of a future together, mocking comments about Ethan's boring devotion. Ethan flipped through the evidence with quiet detachment. Every page was a nail in the coffin of his marriage. Every photograph a reminder that Vanessa hadn't simply betrayed him, she had exploited him. He placed the folder in a safe. Step 1 was complete. Step 2. Cutting the strings. Vanessa's first taste of reality came when her credit card was declined at Bergdorf Goodman. She laughed it off to the clerk, pretending it was a glitch, but by the next morning, she realized something was deeply wrong. The Mercedes was repossessed from the garage. Access codes to the Hamptons villa no longer worked. She stormed into Ethan's office, fury radiating from every inch of her. "What the hell is going on, Ethan? My cards don't work, the car is gone, are you trying to humiliate me?" Ethan didn't look up from his desk at first. When he did, his eyes were steady, calm. "The wallet," he said softly, "is closed." Her face twisted. "You can't do this to me. I'm your wife. You're a liability," Ethan replied, his voice level. "And liabilities get written off." Vanessa's bravado faltered for the first time. She left in a storm, slamming the door so hard the glass shook. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. It had begun. Step 3. The divorce. Vanessa believed she could still walk away rich. After all, New York law was notorious for favoring spouses. She hired an aggressive lawyer, a man who swaggered into meetings with the arrogance of someone already counting his cut of her settlement. But Ethan had anticipated this years ago. Before the wedding, his advisors had drawn up a prenuptial agreement so airtight it could withstand a hurricane. And in it, one clause mattered most: infidelity nullified all financial claims. When Vanessa's lawyer scoffed, Ethan's team calmly placed the evidence folder on the table. Photos, receipts, messages. Silence filled the room as the lawyer flipped through them, his smirk evaporating. "Mrs. Walker," he said finally, avoiding her eyes, "you didn't mention this." Vanessa's cheeks burned crimson. Her carefully rehearsed confidence crumbled into a stammer. These are fake. They have to be." But she knew they weren't. Within weeks, the divorce was finalized. Vanessa walked away not with half of Ethan's fortune, but with almost nothing. No penthouse, no car, no allowance, just a modest settlement barely enough to cover rent outside Manhattan. The woman who once bathed in diamonds now stared at eviction notices. Step 4. Social exile. Ethan could have stopped there. Financial ruin was enough for most men. But Ethan wasn't most men. He wanted Vanessa to feel what he had felt: powerless, humiliated, disposable. At the next charity gala, Ethan arrived not with Vanessa, but with Claire Hartman, a sharp, elegant attorney known in the city for her work in pro bono cases. Claire wasn't just beautiful, she was respected. Unlike Vanessa, she didn't chase cameras, she chased justice for those who couldn't afford it. As they entered the ballroom, whispers rippled through the crowd. Ethan, once the quiet husband in Vanessa's shadow, now stood tall with a woman who radiated strength and substance. Vanessa arrived later, alone. The moment she stepped inside, conversations dipped, eyes darted, whispers turned sharp. Friends she once drank champagne with avoided her. Invitations dried up. She wasn't glamorous anymore, she was toxic. No one wanted to be associated with a gold digger whose betrayal had become a headline whispered behind crystal glasses. Ethan didn't say a word to her. He didn't need to. His silence was a verdict more damning than any insult. Vanessa's fall. Vanessa tried to fight back. She filed lawsuits, attempted to sell her story to tabloids, even begged Marco to stay. But Marco disappeared the moment her bank account dried up. The tabloids weren't interested either. Ethan's reputation was spotless, his philanthropy too genuine, his demeanor too composed. Her claims looked like the desperate ramblings of a bitter ex-wife. Within a year, Vanessa had vanished from the social circuit. She moved into a small apartment in Queens, picking up part-time work to survive. The woman who once glided across marble floors in Louboutins now walked cracked sidewalks in scuffed sneakers. The final encounter. 2 years later, Ethan walked into a mid-range restaurant in Brooklyn with Claire. The hostess led them to a table, and as Ethan glanced around, his eyes froze. There was Vanessa, tray in hand, wearing a tired uniform, hair pulled back, face pale with exhaustion. For a moment, their eyes met. Her hands trembled, nearly spilling the drinks she carried. Ethan held her gaze, not with anger, not with triumph, but with quiet indifference. He gave a polite nod, then turned back to Claire, resuming their conversation as though Vanessa were a stranger. For Vanessa, that silence was the cruelest revenge. The lesson in silence. Ethan never raised his voice, never sought to publicly humiliate her. He didn't need to. His revenge was clean, precise, absolute. He let her greed become the noose she hung herself with. And in New York's elite circles, the story spread like wildfire. A cautionary tale told at cocktail parties. Don't mistake a man's kindness for blindness. And never forget, sometimes the wallet is smarter than the one trying to spend it. For Ethan, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about freedom. He had reclaimed his dignity, his peace, and eventually, his happiness with a woman who valued more than his wealth. Vanessa's name faded into obscurity. Ethan's legacy grew stronger, and every time he looked out over Manhattan's skyline, he was reminded, love built on lies is fragile, but truth, no matter how painful, always sets a man free.